When you do negative things, should you be surprised that negative things happen to you? Do people pay a price to the negative things they do every time? This is a genuine question. I really want to know. Do people actually pay for the bad things they do? Or do people sometimes get away with them? Like, people talk about karma, right? If you do something wrong is going to happen to you. What goes around comes around. Is this 100% correct? Do you think everybody that does something bad always gets to a point in his life where he's going to live something bad? Or do you think there are people that have done horrendous things in their lives that actually ended up being very rich and dying rich and happy? Can we confirm this? Karma, is it 100%? Or it just happens? When it happens, people talk about karma. Or maybe karma is a theory that was invented to prevent people from doing bad things, discouraging people. Don't do that because karma. Don't steal from the government because karma is going to hit you very hard. Do you think everybody that stole from the government have been hit by karma? Let me know how you feel about that. What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing good. Before we start, let's do this. It costs you nothing. We feel appreciated. Thank you very much for being here. This is family. You want to know about the motherland? You're at the right place. This is where we are. We want you here. We like you here. Feel free to join us. Okay. Sarkozy, this man. Do you know that man? He's a former president of France. Okay. He has been stripped of his Legion of Honor medal. So they've taken away the Legion of Honor medal. Okay, because he was convicted last year of corruption and influence, and he was found guilty of trying to bribe a legal representative to get some documentation and to try to hide some things about him. Sarkozy, so the Legion of Honor medal, this is the highest level of honor that France gives to military and civilians. Okay, and him being a president, after doing what he did at the time, they gave him the medal as a way of thanking his work, but now they've taken it away. Is this karma? Well, we're going to find out about his life, trying to look into the past and see perhaps to understand. This is what I believe. If you want to know what's going to happen in the future, you look into the past. Because in most cases, people don't change. They become more and more themselves. Now, who is Sarkozy? Sarkozy is this man right here, okay, president of France. Before he became president of France, he went to Africa discussing with President Gaddafi. This is Gaddafi, Mohammed Gaddafi. I'm sure you heard about him. Great man, great person. He loved Africa very much. One of the good things Gaddafi did for Africa was, back in time, Africans didn't have communications in Africa. Meaning, for an African person to make a phone call from your country to your country, or from your room to the next room, your phone call will be routed to Europe, satellite, then routed back to the next room in your city for you to have a phone call. Do you get me? So your call had to be routed first to Europe, then back to your country. That's why self calls were very expensive back in time. I don't know if you remember, those of you who were here in 1990s, I know a lot of young people here too, it was very expensive to have a cell phone, all that. Now, the problem was Africans had to raise about $500 million to buy their own satellite. Africans tried, they couldn't. I'm sorry, but black people just don't sometimes know how to organize. I'm sorry. Don't you feel triggered? Okay? Couldn't organize. But when it comes to destroying other Africans, we're the first. We're beautiful. It's amazing. It's not just Africans. It's black people all over. It's the same demons. Are we together? Now, what did Gaddafi do? You need $500 million to buy a satellite, but every month you pay $400 million to some Europeans so you can route your calls to Europe. What did Gaddafi do? Gaddafi said, okay, I see you struggling to raise $500 million. I'm going to give you $400 million. You raise $100 million. That is how Africa got its first African communication satellite. That immediately got African people to pay much less money on phone calls as opposed to. That's one of the things Gaddafi did. Gaddafi did many, many things. Let's continue the story. We'll get back to this. So Sarkozy went to Libya. When he got to Libya, he said to Gaddafi, please, we want to cooperate with you. Okay, we want you to stop African migrants, especially sub-Saharan Africans, from crossing Libya on their way to Europe, because as you can look at the map, this is sub-Saharan Africa. A lot of Africans left Africa, sub-Saharan, trying to go to Europe, hoping to get a better life. Why? Because a lot of Africans go to Europe and lie to other Africans, saying, I have a better life now. Look at my picture. Take a picture next to some dude's Ferrari and send it back home. It's sad, unfortunate, but a lot of Africans believe they can only have a much better life when they live in Europe. Now, Gaddafi with Sarkozy discussion was particular in that instance. Sarkozy said to him, listen, I'm here to talk to you as the Ministry of Interior of my country to ask you to make sure Africans don't cross here. They don't come to Europe. What I'm going to do for you in return is I'm going to make sure your reputation is positive in Europe. That's what I'm going to give to you in return. Why is that important for Gaddafi? Because back in time, Gaddafi closed these markets to the West. Basically, none of these big companies that you know, McDonald's was not in Libya, KFC was not in Libya, Walmart was not in Libya. None of these companies was in Libya. It was not authorized. Libya is its own things. And trust me, when you close your country against European companies, you become the enemy. This is the very same thing that's happening in North Korea. North Korea doesn't have anything of the Western nation. They don't make money there. That's why they say they are brutal government, they're bad government, because they don't open the market. That's exactly what Gaddafi did. Now, how could Gaddafi do this? Gaddafi could do this because his country was rich. They had a lot of oil. And he used that oil that generated the money to have enough for the people in his country. Now, Sarkozy promised Gaddafi, if you block Africans, I'm going to speak to the Europeans and everybody else in a positive note about you. For some reason, Gaddafi was okay with that. Sarkozy left. Then Sarkozy came back. He said, I want to run for the elections. I want to be president. And I'd like you to sponsor me. Because, you know, running for presidency is not easy. You must have a lot of money to do it. Okay, and Sarkozy himself couldn't do it. Gaddafi liberated about $50 million for the campaign of Sarkozy to become president. I mean, he thought, if this guy can be this nice with me when he's still a minister of interior, okay, by the time he becomes president, maybe we're going to do good things together.
Sarkozy must first give back the money he took from Libya to finance his electoral campaign. We funded it, and we have all the details and are ready to reveal everything. The first thing we want this clown to do is to give the money back to the Libyan people. He was given assistance so that he could help them, but he's disappointed us. Give us back our money. We have all the bank details and documents for the transfer operations, and we'll make everything public soon.
Now, unfortunately for him, after he became president, his rhetoric against Gaddafi changed. He became very hostile against Gaddafi, calling him a dictator, a bad person, unaliving people for some reason. Now, Gaddafi's son were actually saying, look, this guy is weird. Why doesn't he return the money my father gave him? Why has he become this way? Because he's not getting things the way he wanted to. Why is he becoming the enemy? Because we show him that we are independent. Because remember, Europeans, in most cases, want to keep an hold on the African nation. They want to control. If they cannot control, there's always stories. What happened next was tragic. America with Obama and the Lady Clinton and Sarkozy sent airplanes to go and bombard Gaddafi. Yes, they went and created a group of people calling them freedom fighters to go and attack Gaddafi. They used airplanes to bomb Gaddafi's palace where his sons were sitting. That's what happened back in time. They justified this saying that Gaddafi was killing his own people.
Gaddafi chose the path of brutal suppression. Innocent civilians were beaten, imprisoned, and in some cases killed.
But Gaddafi was killing his own people. Let me tell you a few things Gaddafi did in his country. Gaddafi made sure that some of his people had the best opportunities. Gaddafi made sure that the schools were for free for the people, his own country, from primary school, elementary school, university, for free. Gaddafi made sure that anybody that had difficulties was helped by the government. Gaddafi made sure that if you wanted to go medical treatment to a foreign nation and you're sick, you need an operation. For example, you want to go to Japan because your brain is not okay, you need to get it fixed. And the country cannot provide you those service. The country will put the money together for you. Make sure you travel, not alone, with a family member to accompany you. They pay for the flight, they pay for the accommodation, they pay for everything, for the food, for the treatment, until you come back safe and sound. That's what's Gaddafi for you.
Here with my daughter for treatment. The Libyan government is supposedly paying for it. Why am I being treated so badly? We Libyans are an exhausted people. We're all tired from the war.
How come this person changed from being so generous to being a killer of his own people? Crazy stuff. Doesn't make sense. Gaddafi built the biggest mosque in Uganda. Gaddafi paid the debt of few African nations to international institutions. Like a country is in debt and Gaddafi takes money from his country to pay for that debt. How come such person is killing his own people? They came to Africa, they unalived him. Okay, so that's how they repaid him of his kindness. Why they did that? Because Gaddafi was pushing African nations to utilize gold as a means of currency. He said, why are we using papers? Why are we using papers anyway? Who told you papers was money? Who said papers has value? Who came up with that? Have you ever thought about that? Like, who came up with the idea that a piece of paper is now worth a house or a car? You need to bring a piece of paper. Who gave it value? We have gold. We have the diamond. We have everything, Gaddafi said. Why are we the poor people? How about we use gold now to see who's richer than the other? How about we use gold as a currency? That was his idea. He wanted to create a money named the dinar. He incited African nations to use their gold as a currency. And that was very detrimental because America would have never accepted that, because that would have sent the dollar plummet, valueless. He had to go because it was too much. They unalived him. Now, Sarkozy continued about his life because he felt like, well, we've unalived him. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, later on, they laid charges against him for corruption. Corruption on what? On getting money from Gaddafi. That was not registered. As per the French laws, you're not allowed to do that. Okay? And earlier this year, Sarkozy stood trial over allegation of receiving millions of dollars from Libya for his successful presidential campaign in 2007. He denies the claim. Prosecution requested 7 years prison. The verdict is expected in September. Sarkozy became the second former head of state to be stripped of the Legion of Honor, France's highest distinction, after Nazi collaborator Philippe Patin, who was convicted in 1945 for treason and conspiring with the enemy for his action as leader of the Vichy France in 1940 to 1944. Now we're going to China. Fellas, China is opening up the doors to African nations. Okay. Basically, China said you can come tax-free to my country. Whatever you have to produce, you can come tax-free. It's okay. So in other words, if your country produces tomatoes, potatoes, or any other thing that's valuable, and you feel that you want to go sell it in China, you can go sell it in China tax-free. As opposed to how it was in the past, you maybe had to pay about 20% tariffs or 50%. So they're opening the doors to 54 African countries. Congratulations on what? Let's pick my coffee. Yeah, it sounds good, doesn't it? It's an open door for Africans to go and sell and buy. It's very similar to something. Which one? AGOA. Remember AGOA? AGOA is this American program that allows many African countries to go and sell their goods in America tax-free. AGOA is what's helped some of the countries make some money, including Lesotho, that produces a lot of denim jeans that resold in America tax-free. I mean, if you produce something in your country at $50 and you can sell it to an American client at $150, you make a lot of profit because you don't have to pay any tax at the American border. As opposed to you producing your jeans in Lesotho at $50 and having to sell it at $52 because the Lesotho guy doesn't have a lot of money to spend on jeans. But the American guy, due to the economy, can spend $200. Where would you rather go sell? In Lesotho or in America? You sell in America. Well, AGOA has been very helpful for many African nations. But AGOA has also been a leverage to try to control African nations. The proof is in the pudding. When Trump came into power, he said to Lesotho, oh, from now on, I'm hitting you with tax 50%. You're not going to sell your product tax-free in America anymore. Well, it was mayhem. Lesotho was shaking left, right, center. They didn't know what to do. And you know what they did it for? They did this because Lesotho refused to accept Starlink, which is what that guy's name, Elon Musk's product, internet service connection. They refused to accept Starlink. Why? Because Lesotho has a policy very similar to South Africa that says if you bring a big company into our nation, you need to give 30% equity to the locals, meaning the locals have to own at least 30% of your company. Not for free, but they have to buy and own it. to be part of the company. Now, Elon Musk refused that. And after Elon Musk refused that, Donald Trump hit Lesotho with tax. And then Lesotho was struggling like, we don't know what to do. They went to America and said, listen, you can come. We're going to open the door. Okay, you don't have to give us 30% equity. Now, as much as it is good to have an open market like this, there's a danger to it because then you become dependent on the market. And that's the lesson we need to learn here. What's the lesson? You need to diversify your market. You need to have multiple markets. If one blocks, you have another way to make money. Or else you're going to be dependent. You're going to be a slave of this person. Now, is this a new alternative for African nations? This is not just limited to Lesotho. Many African nations, it is an alternative. But is this for the benefit of Africans? Not necessarily. Because China wants something in return. Countries don't do things for free. China wants you to come to China and export your stuff. Good, but they also expect you to do things in return. You need to have a positive policy toward China. You need to give them access to your resources, not necessarily by taking it for free, but you need to have better negotiation style with them. You need to open your market, your opportunities for China. Now, the bottom line is this one. Who exports more, China or Africa? Okay. China exports more. So if China exports more, and China says you can come for free, and you feeling compelled to meet them and you say you can come for free, who's going to be winning? Not you, because you don't export as much as they do. So they don't need your stuff as much as you need their stuff. So as much as it looks like diversification, it's not a fair freedom type of thing. Yes, you must have another way beside America, beside AGOA. But you cannot just be stuck between China and America. This is one more reason that Africans need to deal with other Africans. Because at least when you deal with other Africans, you know that it's not necessarily just about interest and control. It can be interest, but not necessarily control. Because no African nation wants to control the other African nation, as opposed to big nation that you're trying to work with. China wants to ensure its supply of critical resources like cobalt, lithium, copper, rare earth. How is Africa going to gain for this? Let me know how you feel about this. Nicolas Sarkozy being stripped of his Medal of Honor. He's not going to be that guy anymore. He's going to jail very soon. Do you think this is karma for the things he did to Gaddafi? I mean, how do you get money from somebody, millions of dollars to sponsor you to become president? Then you turn on him and you have him unalive like an animal in the street? No. God bless.